The alarms had been going for 3 days now. At first they were loud and urgent. Now they sounded tired, just like everyone in the colony. Diane Parker stood by the large window in the command center of Proxima Haven. Her eyes were fixed on the sky where 23 black ships hung like deadly stars. The ships did not shine. Instead, they seemed to eat the light around them. Diane had been the governor of this colony for 7 years, but nothing in her experience had prepared her for this. "Governor, shield levels are at 32%, said Kevin Wright from his station. The young communications officer had dark circles under his eyes. No one had slept well since the aliens arrived. Diane nodded without turning from the window. "How long will they hold?" 2 weeks at most. "Maybe less if they increase the attacks," Kevin replied, his fingers moving quickly over the control panel. Proxima Haven had been built as a place of new beginnings. Located 4 light-years from Earth, it was home to 15,000 people who wanted to build a life away from the crowded solar system. The colony was beautiful, with tall buildings that caught the red light of Proxima Centauri, the star they orbited. Farms spread out in the valley below, and a river ran through the settlement like a blue thread. Now all of that was in danger. The aliens called themselves the Krelvar. 3 months ago, they had arrived with messages of peace and friendship. They said they were explorers who wanted to learn about humans. Governor Parker had welcomed them, arranged meetings, and shared information about Earth and human culture. Then everything changed. Without warning, the Krelvar ships took positions around the colony. They sent a new message. Proxima Haven now belonged to them. The humans would work in the mines to extract valuable minerals from the planet. Those who refused would be removed. Lieutenant Adam Kelly entered the command center, his uniform wrinkled from too many hours on duty. As head of colony security, he led the small defense force. It wasn't much, a few hundred trained officers with light weapons. They were meant to handle local problems, not fight off an alien invasion. "The North Section reports another attempt to break through the shield," he said. "We pushed them back, but they're testing us, looking for weak spots." "Casualties?" Diane asked. "Two injured, nothing serious." She finally turned from the window. "We need to make a decision." Adam and Kevin exchanged looks. They knew what she meant. 5 years ago, Proxima Haven had declared independence from Earth. The colonists wanted to govern themselves, make their own rules, chart their own path among the stars. Earth had not fought the decision, but had made it clear that independent colonies could not expect military protection. They were on their own. "We should send the signal," Diane said firmly. "We have no choice." Adam shook his head. "Earth hasn't shown interest in us for years. Why would they care now? We told them we didn't need them." "That was before aliens showed up wanting to make us slaves," Diane countered. "This is bigger than our independence. This is about humanity." Kevin looked up from his console. "Even if we send a distress call, it would take 4 years for the signal to reach Earth at normal speed." "Not with the quantum communication array," Diane said. "It's experimental, but it could get the message there in days." "And then what?" Adam asked. "Earth's nearest fleet would still take weeks to reach us, even with their fastest ships. We'll be long defeated by then." Diane walked to the center table and pressed a button. A map of the colony appeared in the air above them. Red dots showed where the shields were weakest. "We have 15,000 people here," she said quietly. "Families, children. I will use every option before I surrender them to the Krelvar." Through the windows they could see the alien ships firing again. The sky lit up as energy weapons hit the invisible bubble protecting the colony. The lights in the command center dimmed for a moment as power was diverted to the shields. "I've studied the Krelvar from our early meetings," said Dr. Paula Rivers, entering the room with a data pad in hand. The colony's chief scientist had been analyzing everything they knew about the aliens. "They're methodical. They don't want to destroy us. They want our labor. That's why they haven't just blown up the colony. They're trying to wear us down." "What do we know about their technology?" Adam asked. Paula displayed some images on the main screen. They showed tall beings with gray skin and what looked like natural armor plating. Their weapons are advanced, but their tactic is simple: overwhelm with numbers. They've likely done this before to other species. Kevin turned in his chair. Governor, I've prepared the distress message, ready to send when you give the word. Diane looked at each of them. The decision weighed heavily on her. Asking Earth for help meant admitting they couldn't handle independence. It meant possibly bringing Earth's military presence back to Proxima Haven permanently. But the alternative was worse. Send it, she said. Kevin's fingers flew over the controls. The quantum communication array had been installed as a research project last year. It had never been tested at this distance. Message encoding, he reported. Transmitting. Everyone watched the status bar on his screen. Outside, another barrage hit the shields, making the building shake slightly. A potted plant fell from a shelf and shattered on the floor. No one moved to clean it up. Signal sent, Kevin announced after a tense minute. His voice was flat, not celebrating. Now we wait. How long until we know if they received it? Diane asked. The array should create an instant quantum link. If it works, they'll get the message today. But whether they'll respond... He didn't finish the sentence. Diane returned to the window. Below, she could see people moving quickly through the streets, carrying supplies to the community shelters. Everyone had jobs now. Reinforcing buildings, tending to the hydroponics bays, preparing medical facilities. No one panicked, but fear hung in the air like a fog. We should prepare the people, Adam suggested. Tell them we've sent for help, but also be realistic about our chances. Diane nodded. I'll address the colony tonight. In the meantime, I want evacuation plans ready for the essential personnel and as many civilians as we can move if the shields fail. Where would we evacuate to? Paula asked. The outposts in the mountains aren't equipped for more than a few hundred people. It's better than nothing, Diane replied. We also need to secure our research data. If the worst happens, future human expeditions should know what they're facing. As they discussed options, a young officer rushed into the command center. Lieutenant Kelly, the Krelvar are sending a message. Adam moved quickly to a communications panel. The large screen on the wall flickered and then a Krelvar face appeared. Their eyes were large and dark, their mouths small and lipless. Human colony, the alien said in strangely accented English they had learned during the first contact. Your shields fall. Your resistance is noted but unimportant. Prepare your people for processing. We require workers for the extraction phase. Compliance will result in better treatment. Adam looked at Diane, who stepped forward. This is Governor Parker. We reject your demands. This planet is our home, not your mining operation. We've contacted Earth. Their fleet will respond. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Earth is distant. You separated from Earth. Our research indicates Earth forces will not come. You are alone, Governor Parker. Accept this reality. The screen went dark. Kevin looked up from his station. They're right about one thing. We are alone. At least, for now. Diane straightened her jacket and squared her shoulders. Prepare my address to the colony. The people deserve to know everything. She paused, looking again at the dark ships above them. And double the power to the quantum array. Keep sending the message. Every hour, on the hour. Someone out there has to be listening. Outside, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across Proxima Haven. The alien ships continued their silent watch, patient predators waiting for their prey to weaken. In homes and community centers across the colony, people looked to the sky and wondered if anyone would come to their aid. They had declared independence from Earth, proud and determined to make their own way. Now they could only hope Earth had not declared independence from them. Admiral Catherine Lewis had been awake for 36 hours straight. Her uniform was still crisp and perfect, but small lines of fatigue had formed around her eyes. She stood tall in the center of the United Earth Defense Council chamber, facing the 12 council members who would decide the fate of Proxima Haven. Play it again, ordered Chairman Daniel Nelson, his gray hair neatly combed, his expression serious. Catherine nodded to her aide, who tapped a control panel. The large screen on the wall flickered and Governor Diane Parker's face appeared. The image was grainy and broken in places, the result of pushing quantum communication technology beyond its tested limits. This is Governor Diane Parker of Proxima. Haven Colony, the recording began. We are under attack by an alien species called the Krell-Var. They arrived 3 months ago, initially peaceful, but now they have surrounded our colony with 23 warships. The image broke up for a moment, then returned. Our shields are failing. We have 15,000 colonists here, and the Krell-Var have made it clear they intend to use us as forced labor for mining operations. We need immediate military assistance. The message continued with technical details about the alien ships and their weapons. Then Governor Parker's face grew larger as she moved closer to the camera. I know we chose independence from Earth. I know we said we would handle our own problems. But this threat is bigger than just our colony. If the Krell-Var succeed here, they may target other human settlements. Please. We need help. The screen went dark. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Councilman Peter Martinez leaned forward, his face hard. Proxima Haven made their choice 5 years ago, he said. They wanted independence. They rejected our protection and our rules. Now they want our help? 15,000 people are in danger, Admiral Lewis replied calmly. Citizens are not. They're human. Councilwoman Olivia Bennett, a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair, tapped her fingers on the table. Admiral, what forces do we have available to respond? Catherine pressed a button on her wrist device, and a map of nearby space appeared above the council table. Blue dots showed the positions of Earth's military fleets. The Fifth Fleet is currently in the Epsilon sector, she explained, pointing to a cluster of blue dots. They're protecting the Titan mining operations. We could send them, but it would take 3 weeks to reach Proxima Haven, even with our fastest ships. And leave the Titan colonies undefended? Impossible, said Martinez. Those mines produce 60% of Earth's titanium. There is another option, Catherine said. She touched her device again, and a new set of blue dots appeared. The 7th Rapid Response Fleet is currently at Jupiter Station, undergoing final testing of the new Hawking drives. General Eric Coleman frowned. Those drives haven't been fully approved for long-distance jumps. They're experimental. Yes, Catherine admitted. But if they work as designed, the 7th Fleet could reach Proxima Haven in 10 days instead of 3 weeks. And if they fail? Asked Chairman Nelson. Then we lose 13 ships and their crews, Catherine said honestly. But if we do nothing, we definitely lose 15,000 colonists. The council members looked at each other. The room felt tense. I've served in Earth's defense forces for 30 years, Catherine continued. I've never asked this council to take an unnecessary risk, but I'm asking now. Those people need us. Councilman Martinez shook his head. The political implications are severe. If we rush to help a colony that rejected our authority, what message does that send to other independent settlements? That they can have freedom from Earth rules but still expect Earth protection when convenient. Perhaps that's exactly the message we should send, said Councilwoman Bennett quietly. All eyes turned to her. What are we defending if not humanity itself? Politics and boundaries matter, but not as much as human lives. Chairman Nelson stood up and walked to the window. From here, he could see Earth gleaming blue and green below the orbital station. Admiral Lewis, he said without turning, if we approve this mission, what would the fleet face when they arrive? Catherine pulled up images of the Krell-Var ships. Their vessels appear highly advanced. Our intelligence on their weapons is limited, but the 7th Fleet would be outnumbered almost 2 to 1. A suicide mission, muttered General Coleman. Not necessarily, Catherine countered. The 7th Fleet has our newest weapon systems, and we would have surprise on our side. The Krell-Var don't expect a response from Earth. Chairman Nelson turned from the window. And Captain Rodriguez? He knows. The risks? Catherine nodded. I spoke with him directly. He and his crew are ready. Nelson looked at each council member in turn. We will vote now. The question: do we send the 7th Fleet to aid Proxima Haven? He pressed a button on the table. Cast your votes. The council members touched panels in front of them. Numbers appeared on the main screen. 7 in favor, 5 against. The vote passes, Nelson announced. Admiral Lewis, you have authorization to deploy the 7th Fleet. Catherine saluted. Thank you, sir. I'll give the order immediately. As she turned to leave, Nelson added, Admiral, make it clear to Captain Rodriguez. His mission is to save those colonists if possible, but his primary goal is to gather intelligence on these Krelvar. Earth needs to know what we're facing. Understood, sir. Catherine walked quickly through the halls of the Earth Defense Headquarters. Her aide, Lieutenant Scott Davis, hurried to keep up with her. Send immediate orders to Captain Rodriguez, she instructed. The 7th Fleet is to prepare for departure within 6 hours. Yes, Admiral, Scott replied, typing into his tablet. Should I include the Council's vote count? Catherine paused. No, just say the mission is approved at the highest level. She didn't want Rodriguez to know how close the vote had been, how nearly Earth had decided to abandon the colony. At Jupiter Station, Captain Frank Rodriguez stood in his quarters, looking at a photo of his family. The call from Earth could come, any minute. He had already briefed his officers about the possible mission and they were preparing the ships just in case. His communication panel beeped. Captain, incoming priority message from Admiral Lewis, reported his first officer, Lisa Green. Frank touched the panel. Put it through to my quarters. Admiral Lewis appeared on the screen. Captain Rodriguez, the Council has approved the mission. You have 6 hours to prepare the fleet for departure to Proxima Haven. Frank stood straighter. Yes, Admiral. We'll be ready. The Hawking drives haven't been tested at this distance, Catherine warned. You understand the risks? I do, Admiral. My crew does too. Catherine nodded. You're authorized to use any means necessary to protect the colonists. But remember, we need intelligence on these Krelvar. They may be a threat to all human settlements. Understood. We'll get those people out and learn everything we can about the enemy. Good luck, Frank, Catherine said, her tone softening slightly. Come back with your ships. After the call ended, Frank immediately contacted his officers. All senior staff, to the briefing room in 10 minutes, we have our orders. Throughout the fleet, alarms sounded and announcements called crews to their stations. Engineers made final checks on the experimental drive systems. Weapons officers loaded ammunition and calibrated targeting systems. Medical teams prepared for possible casualties. In the briefing room, Frank faced his officers. We're going to Proxima Haven, he announced. 15,000 colonists are under attack by an alien force called the Krelvar. Isn't Proxima Haven independent? Asked Weapons Officer Gary Mitchell. They left Earth jurisdiction years ago. They did, Frank confirmed. But they're still human, and they need our help. First Officer Lisa Green studied the data on her tablet. We'll be outnumbered, Captain. 23 enemy ships against our 13. Quality over quantity, Officer Green, Frank replied with a slight smile. And they don't know we're coming. Chief Engineer Samantha Hayes looked concerned. The Hawking drives have never been used for a jump this long. I can't guarantee they'll hold. Do your best, Chief, Frank said. Those people have less than 2 weeks before their shields fail. We need to reach them in 10 days. The officers nodded, understanding the importance and risks of their mission. One more thing, Frank added. Earth hasn't shown interest in Proxima Haven for years. The colonists probably think they've been forgotten. Let's show them that humanity stands together, no matter what flag we fly. 6 hours later, the 13 ships of Earth's 7th Fleet moved away from Jupiter Station. Their sleek silver hulls reflected the distant sun as they took formation. On the bridge of the EFS Valiant, Captain Rodriguez watched the final checklist completion. All ships reporting ready, Captain, announced Officer Green. Frank took a deep breath. Begin Hawking drive sequence, set course for Proxima Centauri. The ship's engines glowed blue, then shifted to a deep purple as the experimental drives engaged. Space seemed to bend around them, stars stretching into lines. Then with a flash of light, the fleet vanished from the solar system, racing faster than any human vessels had traveled before. Their journey had begun. In 10 days, If the drives worked correctly, they would reach Proxima Haven. Whether they would arrive in time to save the colony remained to be seen. On Earth, Admiral Lewis watched the fleet's departure from her office. "Godspeed," she whispered, "and may we not regret this DCO." The stars looked like streams of light outside the viewports of the EFS Valiant. Captain Frank Rodriguez had never seen anything like it. The new Hawking drives bent space in ways that the older engines never could. The ship moved faster than any human vessel had ever traveled before. "Day 3 of transit, Captain," reported First Officer Lisa Green as she entered the bridge. "All ships still in formation." Frank nodded. In normal space, the 13 ships of Earth's 7th Fleet would be spread across thousands of kilometers. But in the strange bubble of warped space created by the Hawking drives, they traveled together, close enough to see each other through the viewports. "How are the drives holding up?" he asked. "Chief Hayes reports all systems stable," Lisa replied. "But she's not getting much sleep. She checks the drive readings every 2 hours. Frank smiled slightly. "That sounds like Samantha. Tell her I need her rested for when we arrive. We'll need those engines at full power." "Yes, sir." Frank turned to the tactical display. It showed what little they knew about the Krelvar ships surrounding Proxima Haven. The enemy vessels were large and black with strange shapes that didn't match any known design. Their weapons seemed to be energy-based, powerful enough to slowly drain the colony's shields. "Any new information from analysis?" he asked Tactical Officer Gary Mitchell. Gary shook his head. "Not much, sir. The distress signal included some sensor readings, but they're limited. The Krelvar ships absorb most scanning attempts. It's like they're made of some material that eats energy." Frank frowned. Fighting an unknown enemy was always dangerous. Without good information about their weapons and defenses, planning tactics was difficult. "Have all department heads meet in the briefing room in 1 hour," he ordered. "We need to prepare for every possibility." In the ship's main engineering section, Chief Engineer Samantha Hayes studied the pulsing blue light of the Hawking drive. The device wasn't much larger than an old car engine, but it contained technology that bent the rules of physics themselves. "How's it running?" asked her assistant, Engineer John Cooper. Samantha checked the readings again. "Stable for now, but we're pushing it hard. These drives weren't meant to run at full power for 10 days straight." "Will they hold?" She shrugged. "They should. But theory and practice are different things." She tapped her tablet. "I've modified the weapon systems like the captain asked. The phased particle cannons now change frequency every 3 seconds. If the Krelvar shields have any weakness, we'll find it." John looked impressed. "That's not standard procedure." "This isn't a standard mission," Samantha replied. "We're outnumbered and facing an unknown enemy. We need every advantage we can get." Meanwhile, in the ship's gym, Marine Commander Jack Wilson led his troops through combat drills. 50 Marines moved in perfect sync, practicing close-quarters fighting techniques. If they needed to board enemy vessels or rescue colonists, they would be ready. "Again," Jack shouted. Faster this time. The Marines repeated the sequence of movements, their faces serious and focused. Lieutenant Susan Carter, Jack's second-in-command, approached him. "The new armor has been distributed. Everyone's been fitted." Jack nodded. "Good. And the special weapons?" "Ready," Susan confirmed. "Though I hope we don't need to use them. The special weapons were designed for worst-case scenarios. Situations where the Marines might face overwhelming numbers or unknown alien biology. No one wanted to use such destructive force, but if it came down to the survival of the colonists, they would do what was necessary." In the ship's medical bay, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Alan Foster prepared his team for potential casualties. They practiced emergency procedures and reviewed what little information they had about the Krelvar. "We don't know their biology," Alan explained to his staff. "If we capture any, we'll need to be careful. Their body chemistry could be toxic to humans or vice versa." "What about the colonists?" asked Nurse Meg Brown. "They've been under siege for months. They might need serious medical attention." Alan nodded. "I've prepared treatment plans for malnutrition, stress disorders, and radiation exposure. We'll be ready." 1 hour later, all senior officers gathered in the briefing room. Captain Rodriguez stood at the head of the table, looking at each of them. We're 4 days into our journey, he began. If the drives hold, we'll reach Proxima Haven in 6 more days. According to the distress signal, the colony shields should still be operational when we arrive, but barely. He activated the room's holographic display, showing the Proxima Centauri system and the position of the alien fleet. Our primary mission is to evacuate as many colonists as possible, Frank continued. But Earth Defense Command also wants us to gather intelligence on the Krell-Var. They may be a threat to other human settlements. How do we approach, sir? Asked Officer Green. If we all drop out of FTL together, they'll detect us immediately. Frank nodded to Tactical Officer Mitchell, who took over the briefing. We'll exit FTL behind Proxima B, using the planet to mask our arrival, Gary explained. From there, we'll split into 3 groups. Alpha Group will engage the main Krell-Var fleet, drawing their attention. Beta Group will target any ships near the colony's weakest shield sections. Gamma Group will position themselves to begin evacuation. Procedures? What about the Krell-Var technology? Asked Chief Hayes. If we can capture one of their ships, we might learn their weaknesses. That's where my team comes in, said Commander Wilson. We're prepared for boarding actions if the opportunity arises. Frank looked around the table. Questions? Dr. Foster raised his hand. What's our capacity for evacuees? If we need to take all 15,000 colonists, can our ships handle that? Not comfortably, Frank admitted, but we can fit them if necessary. Every ship has converted cargo bays into temporary living quarters. It would be crowded and basic, but we could evacuate everyone. The officers discussed the plan for another hour, addressing potential problems and solutions. When they finished, Captain Rodriguez had one final message. This mission carries significant risks, he said seriously. We're using experimental technology to reach a colony that chose to leave Earth's protection. Some on the Defense Council opposed sending us at all. He paused. But 15,000 people are counting on us. They're human, regardless of political boundaries. We will not fail them. The officers nodded in agreement. As the days passed, the fleet continued its journey through the strange space created by the Hawking drives. On the 6th day, the Valiant's engineering section reported a problem. Drive stability dropping on ships 4 and 7, Chief Hayes told the captain. I've adjusted our formation to reduce stress on their systems, but we're pushing these engines beyond their design limits. Frank considered the options. Can they make it to Proxima Haven? Yes, but they'll need extensive repairs before the return journey. That's a problem for later, Frank decided. Our priority is reaching the colony in time. On the 8th day, the fleet received an updated message from Proxima Haven. It was brief and broken, but the content was clear. The colony shields were failing faster than expected. They would collapse in 3 days. Can we go any faster? Frank asked Samantha. She shook her head. Not without risking drive failure across the fleet. We're already redlining the systems. Frank's face showed no emotion, but his hands tightened on the edge of the console. They needed to arrive in 2 days, not 3. Every hour could mean hundreds of lives lost. Divert power from life support to the drives, he ordered. Reduce temperature on all decks by 5 degrees. Limit water usage. Every bit of energy goes to speed. That will make things uncomfortable for the crew, Lisa pointed out. Better uncomfortable than too late, Frank replied. Throughout the fleet, conditions became more difficult as power was redirected to the engines. The air grew cooler, lights dimmed in non-essential areas, and water was strictly rationed. No, one complained. Every crew member understood what was at stake. On the 9th day, Engineer Cooper rushed into Samantha's office. Chief, we have a problem with the Valiant's drive. The containment field is fluctuating. Samantha immediately went to the main engineering bay. The Hawking drive's blue glow was now pulsing irregularly, and warning lights flashed on the control panels. Stabilize the field, she ordered her team. Reroute power from the secondary systems. For 3 hours, the engineering team worked frantically to keep the drive functioning. If it failed, the Valiant would drop out of FTL, stranding at light years from both Earth and Proxima Haven. Finally, Samantha called the bridge. Captain, we've stabilized the drive, but I've had to reduce power. Our arrival will be delayed by 6 hours. On the bridge, Frank received the news grimly. 6 hours could mean the difference between saving the colony and finding only ruins. Understood, Chief. Do what you can. As the 10th day began, the fleet prepared for arrival. Weapons were brought to full readiness. Medical bays prepared for casualties and Marines stood by their dropships. Proximity alert, announced Officer Green. Approaching Proxima Centauri system. Frank took his command chair. All hands to battle stations. Prepare to exit FTL in formation behind Proxima B. Throughout the fleet, crews moved to their positions. The long journey was ending. The battle was about to begin. Hawking drive shutdown sequence initiated, reported the helm officer. Exiting FTL in 3, 2, 1. The strange. Lieutenant Adam Kelly stared at the communications console in disbelief. The message was short and direct. Proxima Haven, this is Captain Frank Rodriguez of the Earth Fleet Valiant. Help has arrived. Hold position. We are engaging the enemy. This real? Adam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Kevin Wright checked the signal again. It's authentic. Earth signature codes match. He looked up, his tired eyes suddenly bright. They actually came. Governor Diane Parker rushed to the console. For days she had been preparing her people for the worst. The shields were nearly gone. The Krelvar had sent their final warning. Surrender within 12 hours or face direct assault. Can you respond? She asked Kevin. Yes. Tight beam communication established. Diane took a deep breath. Captain Rodriguez, this is Governor Parker. Our shields are at 8% and failing. We have 15,000 civilians. Please hurry. Miles away behind the curve of Proxima B, Captain Rodriguez received the message. He turned to his bridge crew. Alpha Group, prepare to move into attack position, he ordered. Beta Group, stand by to target enemy ships near the colony shields. Gamma Group, ready for evacuation protocols. First Officer Lisa Green studied the tactical display. The Krelvar still don't know we're here. They haven't changed positions. Frank nodded. Let's keep our advantage. All ships, move into position. Attack pattern Delta. The 13 Earth. Ships glided silently from behind the planet. They separated into 3 groups, each with a specific mission. Alpha Group, led by the Valiant, would engage the main Krelvar fleet. Beta Group would target the enemy ships closest to the colony. Gamma Group would create a safe corridor for evacuation. Weapons range in 30 seconds, reported Gary Mitchell from Tactical. Frank checked the readiness of his fleet one last time. All ships, weapons free on my mark. He waited until the perfect moment, when his ships had the best firing angles. Mark! Across the void of space, 13 Earth vessels opened fire simultaneously. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out, striking the unsuspecting Krelvar ships. Chief Hayes's modifications to the weapons proved effective. The phased particle cannons changed frequency rapidly, finding gaps in the alien shields. 3 Krelvar vessels were hit critically in the first volley. Their black hulls cracked, venting atmosphere and debris into space. The remaining alien ships scrambled to respond to the surprise attack. Enemy vessels breaking formation, Lisa reported. They're moving to engage. The space around Proxima Haven erupted in chaos. The massive Krelvar ships turned to face the Earth fleet, their weapons charging. Energy beams crisscrossed the darkness as both sides exchanged fire. On the colony's surface, people gathered at windows and view screens, watching in awe as explosions lit up the sky. After months of fear and hopelessness, the sight of Earth ships, fighting for them, brought tears to many eyes. I never thought they would come, Dr. Paula Rivers said, standing beside Governor Parker in the command center. Diane nodded. Neither did I. She turned to Kevin. Send a colony-wide message. Tell everyone to prepare for possible evacuation. Have them gather only essentials, 1 bag per person, no more than 5 kilograms. The battle intensified as the Krelvar recovered from the initial surprise. Their largest ship, a dagger-shaped vessel twice the size of the Valiant, moved toward the Earth fleet, firing continuous beams of energy. Evasive maneuvers, Frank ordered as his ship shuddered under enemy fire. Target their weapons arrays. The Valiant twisted in space, its engines glowing hot as it avoided the worst of the enemy attack. Its weapons fired in precise bursts, striking the Krelvar flagship repeatedly. Enemy shields weakening, Gary reported. But our port shields are down to 40%. Frank studied the tactical display. The Earth fleet was fighting well, but they were outnumbered. 2 Earth ships were already heavily damaged, their hulls scarred by enemy fire. Signal the Jefferson and the Horizon to fall back and protect our evacuation ships, he ordered. We need to start getting people off that colony now. As the battle raged above, Commander Jack Wilson led his Marines to the shuttle bay. 3 transport ships stood ready, their engines warming. Remember the plan? Jack told his troops. We secure the landing zone, establish a perimeter, and coordinate the evacuation. Priority is children, medical cases, and essential personnel. What if the Krelvar land ground forces? Asked Lieutenant Susan Carter. Then we show them why humans aren't to be messed with, Jack lied simply. The transport ships launched from the fleet, protected by fighter escorts as they raced toward the colony. The Krelvar noticed and diverted 3 ships to intercept them. Beta Group, engage those interceptors, Frank ordered. Don't let them near our transports. Captain Olivia Chen, commanding the EFS Defiant in Beta Group, acknowledged the order. Her ship and 2 others moved to block the Krelvar vessels, drawing their fire away from the vulnerable transports. Target their engines, she told her weapons officer. Let's see how they like being crippled and helpless. The Defiant fired a series of precise shots, hitting one Krelvar ship's propulsion system. The alien vessel spun out of control, drifting away from the battle. Meanwhile, the Valiant pressed its attack on the Krelvar flagship. The 2 largest ships in the battle circled each other, exchanging devastating blows. Direct hit on their primary weapon, Gary announced as the Valiant's cannons struck home. It's offline! The bridge crew had no time to celebrate. The ship lurched violently as the Krelvar returned fire. Hull breach on deck 4, reported the damage control officer. Emergency bulkheads holding. Frank gripped the arms of his command chair. Continue targeting their weapons, prepare boarding teams. Boarding teams, sir? Lisa asked, surprised. We need intelligence on the Krelvar, Frank explained. This may be our only chance to capture one of their vessels. While the space battle continued, the transport ships reached Proxima Haven's main landing pad. Commander Wilson and his Marines secured the area, setting up defensive positions as colonists began to arrive. Move quickly but calmly, Susan instructed the civilians. 1 bag only, children stay with parents. Governor Parker worked alongside the Marines, organizing her people into groups. The most vulnerable go first, she insisted. Families with young children, the elderly, the injured. The first transport filled quickly with 300 colonists. As it lifted off, a second transport landed to take its place. Above them, fighter ships engaged Krelvar scouts that had broken through the Earth fleet's defensive line. Back on the Valiant, Frank made a difficult decision. Signal the Monroe and the Washington to protect the evacuation route at all costs. We're going after their flagship. The Valiant surged forward, all weapons firing at the massive Krelvar vessel. 2 other Earth ships followed, concentrating their fire on the same target. They're focusing on us now, Lisa warned as the enemy flagship turned its remaining weapons toward the Valiant. Good, Frank said grimly. The more attention on us, the less on the colony. Chief Engineer Samantha Hayes called from engineering. Captain, I've analyzed their shield frequencies. There's a pattern to the modulation. Sending targeting data to weapons now. Gary adjusted the weapon systems. Ready? To fire, sir. Hit them with everything we've got, Frank ordered. The Valiant's weapons fired in perfect sync, the beams pulsing at exactly the frequency needed to penetrate the Krelvar shields. The enemy flagship shuddered as multiple hits struck its hull directly. Their main power system is destabilizing, Gary reported, excitement in his voice. 1 more good hit could do it. But the Krelvar weren't finished. The flagship fired all its secondary weapons at once, battering the Valiant from multiple angles. Shields failing, shouted the engineering officer. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Frank held onto his console as the ship shook violently around him. Reroute emergency power to weapons. Fire again. Same target. Through smoke and flickering lights, the bridge crew carried out their orders. The Valiant's main cannons fired once more, striking the Krelvar flagship's power core. A brilliant flash of light erupted from the alien vessel as internal explosions tore through its structure. Enemy. Flagship critically damaged, Gary confirmed. They're losing power and weapons. The other Krelvar ships reacted to their leader's fall. Several broke off their attacks and moved to protect the damaged flagship. Others continued to press their attack on the Earth fleet, but with less coordination than before. At the colony, the evacuation continued. Nearly 2,000 colonists had been transported to the Earth ships. Commander Wilson's Marines fought off a small group of Krelvar who had landed near the perimeter. 4 more transports, and we can get another 2,000 people out, Jack told Governor Parker. She looked up at the battle visible in the sky. Will your ships hold out that long? Before Jack could answer, a massive explosion lit up the space above them. One of the Earth vessels had been destroyed, breaking apart in a ball of fire. We'll hold, Jack said firmly. Captain Rodriguez won't leave until every last colonist is safe. On the Valiant's damaged bridge, Frank received reports from across the fleet. The battle was taking its toll. 3 Earth ships destroyed, 4 others heavily damaged. But the Krelvar had lost 9 vessels, with several others crippled. Status of the evacuation? He asked Lisa. 2,000 colonists aboard. Our ships, she replied. 2 weeks after the battle, Proxima Haven was quiet again. The Krelvar ships were gone. Some had been destroyed, others had retreated when they realized they could not win. Earth transport ships had arrived with supplies, medical teams, and repair crews. Governor Diane Parker stood in the colony's central plaza. Once this had been a busy marketplace. Now it held a simple stone monument. On it were carved the names of those who had died, colonists who had not survived the siege, and Earth Fleet crew members who had given their lives in the rescue. Captain Frank Rodriguez stood beside her. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his face showed the strain of recent weeks. The Valiant had survived the battle, though it needed major repairs before it could return to Earth. You saved us, Diane said simply. All of us. Frank shook his head. Not all. We lost good people on both sides. But without Earth's help, none of us would have survived. She looked at the monument, reading the names. I never thought Earth would respond. After we declared independence, I assumed we were on our own. Earth may respect your independence, Frank replied, but we don't abandon our own. Nearby, Lieutenant Adam Kelly helped a group of Earth engineers repair the colony's shield generators. The technology had been nearly destroyed in the final hours of the siege, but with Earth's help, the defenses would soon be stronger than ever. Why are you rebuilding our shield? Adam asked an engineer named Bill. We're not part of Earth anymore. Bill adjusted a power coupling before answering. Captain's orders. Said you folks needed to be safe, whether you're under Earth's flag or not. In the medical center, Dr. Paula Rivers worked alongside Earth doctors treating the last of the injured colonists. The siege had taken a toll on everyone's health. Food had been rationed, stress had been high, and some had been injured in Krelvar attacks. Your people didn't have to stay and help rebuild, Paula said to Dr. Alan Foster as they checked on a patient. Alan smiled. Of course we did. That's what neighbors do. On the other side of the colony, Chief Engineer Samantha Hayes studied the Krelvar technology they had captured. The aliens' advanced systems were fascinating, their power sources more efficient than anything humans had developed. What will Earth do with this technology? Asked Kevin Wright, who had been assigned to help her. Learn from it, Samantha replied. The Krelvar will be back someday, maybe not here, but somewhere. We need to be ready. As evening fell, the colonists gathered in the plaza for a memorial service. Earth Fleet members stood side by side with the people of Proxima Haven. The differences between them, political, cultural, philosophical, seemed small now. Captain Rodriguez and Governor Parker lit the first candle together, then passed the flame to others. Soon thousands of small lights filled the plaza. "We came here seeking independence," Diane said to the gathered crowd. "We wanted to find our own path among the stars, but we've learned that independence doesn't mean isolation. We are still part of humanity, still connected to Earth." Frank stepped forward. "And Earth has learned that our responsibility to protect human life doesn't end at our borders. The stars are vast and full of danger. Humans must stand together whatever flag we fly." Later that night, as Frank walked back to his ship, he looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the remaining Krelvar were regrouping, perhaps planning their next move. But they had learned an important lesson. Humans protect their own. On Earth, Admiral Lewis reviewed the reports from Proxima Haven. The Defense Council had made the right choice, despite the risks. The mission had cost lives and ships, but it had saved thousands of colonists and provided crucial intelligence about a new threat. More importantly, it had sent a message to all human settlements, independent or not. You are not alone. Earth's fleet will come when you need it most, and to the wider galaxy it sent an even clearer message. Humanity stands united. Threaten one human settlement, and you face the wrath of all.